what we're going to do tonight, I have some slides that I'm going to share with you, just my thoughts. It should take 20, 25 minutes, but it's just kind of a lot of back and forth just going on, what I've been thinking about the last year, especially just how to build a better team.
Yeah.
For me, because I'm learning. I didn't grow up with volleyball. Baseball is my main sport, but I played like 7 sports. I knew what volleyball was in college. That you got the sand out back behind the dorms and, just play around, but never really knew what volleyball was until one day. I started teaching out of school, and after school, maybe getting ready for volleyball, and I just passed the ball around. No clue what I'm doing. But the athletic director was like, hey, you look like you know what you're doing. Do you want to coach our middle school team? I'm like, let me think about it. So since then, I just fell in love with the sport. It's an amazing sport, and just trying to get better. I love meeting coaches, same as you, Lauren. Just trying to get better. How do I communicate at each age level, whatever it is? How do I build a program? If I'm not getting elite athletes, how can I still create a competitive culture for my regional teams who will play at a qualifier, but will lose most of their matches because we're in the American division? How do I still coach a competitive team with what I got?
Yes, that's exactly where I come from.
Yeah, because like I said, all the middles I get, it's very rare that I get middles who are like, oh, yeah, I've been a middle for the last 3 years. It's like, no, this is my first time playing club. It's my first time being a middle. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. So that's usually the players I get. But
this is the first time I've ever played, and I'm here because I watched it anime. So.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yep. Volleyball anime is how we get like 85% of the boys in the program, and they've never touched a ball. They've never played. They're excited to be there, but it's rough.
I love that, though. That's a good positive influence for the sport. If it's anime, that's great. So let me go and share my screen. And since it's such a small group, y'all can just interrupt whenever. So let's see. So it took me a while to think about what I wanted to share, how much I wanted to share, because really this is coming from I'm writing a book, and it's really a book to myself. If I could go back to the beginning, what would I want to know? What have I learned over the last several years of building better teams, building competitive teams? So that's really what this kind of sparked it, and just watching the conversations inside of the Get the Pancake group and the other volleyball groups. I see a lot of the same conversations every year, every season, a lot of the same issues. So I'm like, I think I might have solved that one problem over there. I can communicate that because I think I got it. So I got a system. So I'm big into systems and making systems. Like almost all the emails I send out throughout the season are just templates that I've made. I sent out this email after orientation. I send this one after this, and I send this one before tournaments and this one after tournaments. I'm not rewriting all these emails. They're already in a file. I'm like, great, this is my post-tournament email. Copy paste. So I'm big into systems, and that goes with how I'm coaching as well. But always trying to get better. I know y'all feel the same ways too. So really just the mission of this book is how to develop core values that drive commitment from your players, create buy-in from both your players and their parents, build better leaders build better leaders within your program, which is one of my favorites. I love building leaders, and then foster a competitive culture that will help you win more matches. But we'll talk about later, for some coaches, it's not necessarily about winning more matches. We talk about defining winning, which is really a whole nother topic. There's some overlap on this. So really, here's what we're going over tonight: how to define your culture, how to communicate the culture, and how to get player buy-in. Those are the main things that we'll go over tonight. So defining your culture, and there are really 4 parts actually. So let me go back. You have your coaching philosophy, your team vision, your core values, and your mission statement. Do either of y'all have a coaching philosophy, or do y'all have any of these actually written out that you refer to throughout the year, before the year, end of the year?
Yes. I have right now for club, yes, I have all of them. But for my brand new program that I just took on, I'm actually going to have the girls help me with the team vision and the mission statement, because I feel like they need to have some skin in the game in order for them to buy in and for it to be effective. So, so also some of the core values. So I have an idea of what I want, but I want the girls to have a part in it.
Absolutely. We'll go over that with player buy-in. That's really very important in just building a strong culture is player buy-in. Because if you don't get player buy-in, it's like pulling teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Coaches and players are just butting heads like the whole season. Communicating player buy-in. So yeah, for sure, that's very important. We'll go over that a little bit later. But coaching philosophy, why you coach, why you do what you do, what drives you, why do you even want to be a volleyball coach in the first place? Kind of helps set your tone. It helps you be able to, it's like holding up a mirror to yourself. I look at it several times throughout the season, especially at the end of the season. Did I accomplish my coaching philosophy this year? And my coaching philosophy is to develop athletes for the next level by reinforcing the fundamentals, by using guided discovery to help players learn new skills. I believe that players need lots of reps. They need to experience many game-like situations. I believe that mistakes are part of the growing process, and that mistakes lead to mastery. And I like to break that down for myself, to develop athletes for the next level. What does that even mean? And that's different for every coach and wherever they're coaching, whether it's boys, girls, high school, middle school, club, whatever it is. For me, I'm mostly at 15s. So I have to think. A lot of my players come in, sometimes their goals are next year I want to play for a 16s travel team, 16s national team, whatever it is. Cool. I know how the 16s teams practice. I know their coaches. I know what their philosophies are. I know what the competition looks like at the 16s. So I know how to coach for that. And usually it's about the middle of the season, I shift gears because first half of the season is like, let's get our life together. And then second half of the season, it's like, okay, now we're going to really shift gears here. For some of my athletes, it's more about, I want to make varsity as a sophomore. Cool. I know a lot of your varsity coaches. I know a lot of your varsity programs. I know that they're competitive in different ways. So I can help you with that. Now, they may or may not accomplish that because it just depends on the program. Like I know one high school this year, it was their varsity. They have a lot of juniors and seniors. It's going to be tough as a sophomore or a freshman to just come in and bump out a junior out of the varsity program. So, I try to be realistic, but also, reinforcing the fundamentals. This is at every age, every level. 17s and 18s, some of them still have really bad technique, really bad fundamentals, footwork, just all over the board. Hitting technique, it's like, and at 17s and 18s, a lot of times they're just lazy at that point, and like they're just not coachable. They're like, you know what, I've been doing this forever, it works. But I'm like, but you could be better. So reinforcing the fundamentals, implementing that somehow into my practice plans, using guided discovery. One of my favorites, just asking a lot of questions. It's very important to ask questions, especially people, get them involved in what you're doing. So when I'm running a drill, especially a new drill, I do it one couple of different ways. One, I might tell them, hey, here's this drill. Here's what I want you to get out of it. Or I say, here's a new drill. Let's run it for a couple of minutes. Then I'm going to stop. Be like, hey, what do you think you should be getting out of this drill? What skills are important for this drill? And I'll let them speak. I'm like, okay, cool. Or like, hey, we're doing situational games. And I put them in situations like, okay, so on the other side of the net, the set was way outside the pin. Do you think they're going to hit line in this situation? Probably not. Probably not, but I'll let them answer. No, they're probably not going to hit line because it's nearly impossible to hit line at that angle. So what do? Let them talk. We shift a little bit. Okay, cool. Players need lots of reps. I design my practices to get lots and lots of reps, especially serve receive. I did a lot. I think this past year I did more serve receive drills than anything else. But we had a pretty good side out percentage, so I think it worked. Players need to experience many game-like situations. Volleyball is very random, so you can't recreate everything. Like twice the AAUs, the ball just rolled across the top of the tape and then landed. It's like you can't recreate that. It's very difficult. So, but you can talk through things, game-like situations. And then mistakes are part of the growing process. We celebrate mistakes in my gym. If you're doing what you're supposed to do, I want you to try new things. You may not get the kill, but I ask you to do something. You swung hard, you're aggressive. I'm applauding them. Like, that was great. You did exactly what I asked. So mistakes are part of the growing process. So that's my coaching philosophy. Does any of this resonate with you? Is it one thing stand out more than the other?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Very much similar to my coaching philosophy. Just definitely always pushing for that more aggressive swing. I just believe if kids are not willing to do something in practice, they're not going to be willing to do it in a game. So always coach aggressive swings. I'm like, I don't care if you sail it out. Let's be aggressive. Good approach. It was a good ball. So you hit the rafters. What do we need to so yeah, definitely the asking questions, and I'm very much an explorer kind of coach. Like, okay, figure it out. Yeah. I can tell you how to hit a ball. I can tell you how to hit the ball down the line, but until you learn how to manipulate your hand, you need to figure that out for yourself. I can teach all the mechanics, but until you know how your hand is going to contact that ball and what it's going to do, I can't do anything for you. So just definitely preach that self-discovery. Tons of reps.
Yeah, that's good. Lauren, did you have anything?
Oh yeah, I do all of these things, and this is very much part of my coaching philosophy. I'm a little bit more democratic for the younger kids, but I'm very much so like a holistic and like self-guided for the older kids that have been on the court for a little bit longer, who should know, you know what I mean, what is going on. So yeah, I absolutely, all of these things are very important.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things is when a player comes up to me and says, I want to learn how to do this. I'm like, oh, I love that. Like, let's do it. Because they're excited about it. So
exactly.
Awesome. Team vision is a little bit different depending on how you define it. But just kind of, there's a couple different ways to do this. And so just getting the team to see into the future, the possibilities. Like for me, I do it pretty quick, or early. Like the way our club tryouts are set up, I get to meet with my team after tryouts. Like, hey, congratulations, that sort of thing. So that's when I cast the vision. I don't necessarily talk about coaching philosophy and core values and all that stuff yet, because I really only have like 5 to 10 minutes with them. But I'm casting vision. It's like, hey, y'all did awesome tonight. I think we can do this, this, and this. I think if we really gel, we can make it to the gold bracket at regionals, whatever I think the goal might be. Gold bracket at regionals around here is pretty good for a regional team. So just casting the vision, whether a lot of teams do have some kind of orientation, so you can include that in orientation. But also all of this will need to be just communicated often, which I think I go over a little bit later. What might be your team vision? It depends on the level you're coaching, of course, especially if you're coaching kids that maybe have lower skill. Gold bracket at regionals is not really something they could reach toward, but it also doesn't have to be win based or based on championships, things like that. It could be anything. I think I have mine written down here. Let me say, do I have mine written down? Yeah, just some things like this. I don't know if these are mine necessarily. My volleyball team will be the most winning team in our region. Our team will be known for its teamwork and strength. Not based on wins, but it's a culture thing. We'll have a strong program with a culture of passion and hard work. Just finding something that makes sense for your group, your team, your level. All right, core values. I think this is actually the first year I've actually written out my core values. I talk about some of them over the years, but this is the first year I think I actually wrote them out. What are my core values? Some of these are mine. Some of these I pulled from like, what did Russ Rose do? What were his core values? Let's look at one of the greatest coaches of NCAA. What were his core values? So I just kind of pulled a little bit here, but commitment. If you're on this team, you're committed. You're going to show up, give your best effort every practice. Work ethic, work hard at all times. Trust. We'll trust that we have each other's best interests at heart. We will trust our teammates to give their best. Teamwork. We work hard for each other. Respect. Now, this one's definitely mine because I have basically tell them I have 2 rules. I don't tolerate laziness and I don't tolerate disrespect, and that's disrespect toward coaches, other players, referees, other teams. Don't tolerate it. But I don't really have issues because I'm defining other parts of my culture. My philosophy, my vision, my core values, and my mission statement. So once they buy into that, I don't really have respect issues. And integrity. So some of these work great for some cultures. Some of these, they like to rephrase it or have different core values. These are just examples. But I am curious what some of the core values are that are important to you in your program.
Ooh. Go ahead, Noemi. I'm going to find mine
Effort.
real quick.
I'm
Effort.
100% effort. Whatever we're doing, we're shagging balls, we're being teammates, we're playing. I'm always 100% effort when we're in the gym. We only get to practice so often. It's usually only for about an hour. So I'm like, I know we're here to have fun, we're here to learn, but I expect 100% effort. And I bring that up very early on.
Yeah, for sure. That's good.
But also go back to, I mean, they're kids, and saying, okay, your 100% effort may not look the same day every day. And if it's not going to be what it usually is, then we need to communicate why that is.
Yeah. Someone shared with me recently, I think they called it the rule of thirds. Like, I think that's what it was. A third of your practices, you'll feel like you're on top of the world. A third of your practices, you'll feel like you're just in the middle. And a third of the practice, you'll feel like you couldn't give your best. You just weren't, you're just having an off day or something like that. But I don't know if it was the rule of thirds. I might have just made that up. But it was something like that, where not all of your practices are going to be your best. You know, sometimes you're going to have bad practices. It kind of reminds me of a counseling session. Sometimes you go to counseling and feel great about yourself when you leave. Other times you leave counseling, you're like, oof, I got to get my life together. So I kind of communicate that in some way with my players too. Like, hey, it's okay to have an off day.
Yeah.
You know, just come back.
Well, my team is such a catch-all because I definitely coach a lower level team. And so having kids come in that don't know what they're doing, but are still giving 100% effort, and then just celebrating that as a team. Like, hey, I know this didn't go as well as we wanted, but everybody was giving their best, and that you should all be really proud of that. So,
yeah, for sure. And celebrate stuff like that. You know, you reinforce what you want to see. You know, if you, which I might talk a little bit later, but you know, if you see great effort, like, hey, what they did over there, that's exactly what I'm looking for right there. And they're like, oh, that's what he wants. Okay, cool. You know, instead of yelling at people and punishing them all the time.
Right. Giving them a chance to meet the expectation or another opportunity to have it.
That's right.
I value communication.
Mhm.
I think that open, honest, productive communication, whether it be, feedback when we're doing feedback things, right? Like, cause I feel like too much overcoaching is not a great thing, right? So like, but I value the communication. I value, honesty, which also can kind of go with trust. And then I value intention. Every time we get on the court, we're intentionally getting better at playing the sport of volleyball. That's my big thing too. Like, you are intentionally here to get better, to make your teammates better, because I have you for an hour and a half, right? Or 2 hours, whatever it might be, twice a week. And that's not a lot of time to get you to the next level if you don't intentionally work with me.
That's right. I can't count how many times I use the word intentional throughout the season. It's that and on purpose and with a purpose. I say that a lot too. But
yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that's really good. That's awesome. Let's see what else we got. Mission statement. Now this is my favorite. This is kind of where it all started to click for me, is my mission statement. Any of my players over the last few seasons could tell you what our mission statement is, because I communicate it every single practice. And this is really what drives my culture for my teams. So a lot of people are familiar with the whole "we before me, we is greater than me." That's one of the more popular mission statements. It's great. I love it. And then I just kind of took that and built on top of that. My mission statement is, we will work hard at all times, not just for ourselves, but for each other. And every player on my team knows what that means to them, because I have them write it out. And it works very well, because anytime they might not be giving their best effort, I see them slipping up, getting lazy, I say, are you working hard right now? Are you working hard at all times? Are you working hard for yourself? Are you working hard for your teammates? And they're like, oh, I get it. And then they're like, I can see this the shift in their mind. Like, okay, I see what they're saying here. But as we get into, it's about player buy-in. As you mentioned a little bit earlier, Lauren, it's like, it's so much easier once you just get them to buy in. And I'm big into building team captains and leaders, which is a whole nother webinar I could do. as well about building leaders on the court. 'Cause I love talking about leadership.
Yes, and that is that I think so many coaches don't understand that it is so important for them, like for the coaches to be the ones that cultivate that. Like when they say that the leaders step up, like cultivating those kids to be the best, like kind of leader for who they are and what the team needs, right? Yeah. So like, yeah, that's a huge, huge thing.
I'm a big fan of team captains. Of course, I train everyone to be leaders, but team captains have been incredible for me. I spend a lot more time with them at least once a month. I'm like, hey, captain's meeting, let's talk. All right, what's going on? What do you see? What do you know? And then I don't know what they're saying in their huddles, but apparently it works because every time the captains have a little huddle, it's like mood change. I'm like, this is awesome. So, but I've learned over the years that a lot of times they're using my words, which is kind of cool, but also scary at the same time. It's like, what have I been saying that they would be repeating? Am I saying the right things? Because if they're repeating them, I need it to be good. It need to be positive. And then the second most important thing is communicating the culture. It's great to have a culture. You define your vision, your philosophy, your core values, mission statement. But if you don't tell anyone, it's useless. And I see this every single year where a coach is having an issue. And it's like, their season starts in January, it ends in May. And they're like in March or April. And they're like, I'm having this issue. And I'm like, when did you last communicate your expectations or whatever? And they said it was at the beginning of the year at orientation. I'm like, that was it? And they're like, that was it. I'm like, well, there's your problem. You only communicated what you wanted once. Of course you're having issues. I'm surprised you're not having more issues. It has to be communicated early and often. I know we've kind of talked about that already. But a lot of different ways to do it. Like I said, after tryouts, I communicate vision quickly. Team orientation is really, I want players and parents there. I want them to hear the vision. I want them to hear our core values, our mission statement. And then I always send it in an email afterward. Hey, orientation recap. Here's what we talked about. Here's a link to a document with the mission statement, core values, and all that fun stuff. We say our mission statement at every single practice. I already mentioned that already. And in parent emails, I might try something different this year where any email I send out, whether it's a tournament prep, tournament recap, at the bottom, I'm thinking about including, hey, here's our document with our core values and mission statement, all that fun stuff. Just a little refresher if you're into it. But also explain the why behind everything that you're doing. Just why are we doing this? Why are we working hard at all times? Why are we using guided discovery? Why are we getting lots of reps? Why is that important? Why does any of that even matter? So it's just explaining the why behind everything that you're doing. And if you're this is a little side note, but if you're wanting a competitive culture, you have to tell your team that you want them to be competitive. I see that one happen too. My team's not competitive. Do they know that you want them to be competitive? It's like, oh, maybe not. Maybe I haven't mentioned it once. I don't know. And then also share stories about how your team had been competitive in the past, or share stories about your team in general in the past. Like, hey, my teams this year, they accomplished this, and this. I know y'all can do the same thing. They were so competitive. They had a 70% win percentage or whatever. I think y'all can do better, whatever it is. So what are some ways that y'all feel has worked well when you're communicating your vision or your culture for your team?
I'm a relatively new coach. This is only I'm going into my third year of coaching. And I think it's just been a kind of a learning process to figure out what I need to do, just because I've been learning how to coach on top of actually coaching. And there's such a coaching shortage in our area, so not having an assistant coach and kind of learning as I go has been a process. So this is why I enjoy this kind of stuff, so I can learn from everybody else. But I don't even know. I mean, we had such a up and down season last season. I only had 8 boys, and half the time I only had 6. So it was really hard for them to kind of buy in that we were going to be a competitive program. And we did have some success, but it's hard. it was hard at midseason when they have just been losing and losing and losing. And I'm like, I get it. I was like, but even when we lose, like, let's make them earn it. We know we're going to lose, and that's fine, but let's make them earn it. Don't roll over. So I think just having that conversation with the team captains actually was really impressed. I mean, 16-year-old boys, I haven't met anyone that would take the initiative to be like, Coach, I want to have a meeting. Just to have that conversation with them. And like, I know we've gone into 3 tournaments and have not won a single set. But I was like, well, we're just giving up, and I don't know how to change that. And I was like, you guys need to know, like, you guys need to make that switch. Like, okay, we might not win, but let's not just let them win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know that I have like a specific phrase or something that I've said to them, but just having those open conversations with the kids, be like, hey, I know this is a new team. I know the skill set is just not there, and we're up against some really tough teams, but I've seen greatness. Like, I know you can do it, but you need to believe it.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, are they losing because of the skill level?
Yes.
Is that
And
mostly
I mean,
the issue?
just like inexperience and skill level,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that can be tough. But you can find goals, give them goals and things that aren't tied to winning. Just,
Yeah.
we're getting better. Like for me,
Yep.
this year I had a couple players, they're not all-star players, but at the beginning of the season, their hitting percentage might have been 5%. Okay, well, let's
Yep.
say by March, I want you to be at 15%. Okay, great. You made 15%. Now by April, I want you to be at 25%. Great. That's awesome. You might not be winning, but hey, look, you've improved. I can show you that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Tangible wins was kind of our big thing this last season of like, hey, like, we're serving more consistently. We're receiving more consistently. We're rallying. We're not just giving up points in that serve-receive aspect of the game. So we definitely took the little wins out of it, but I know it's mentally hard for kids to go to these, and especially us, we travel very far, 8+ hours most of the time to go to these tournaments. Like, one of my little 15-year-olds is like, yeah, we drove 8 hours just to get our butts kicked. So I mean, they're just brutally honest, but yeah, like, that's tough. It's tough for them to go and commute because there's no local boys volleyball, just to lose and lose and lose. So just having that midway season conversation, I think, definitely shifted gears for us, but I wouldn't say that I have like a specific philosophy or phrasing that I do on a consistent basis.
in a lot of situations where we end up losing and I can tell they're really down about it, I just remind them, hey, I'm proud of you. I enjoy watching you play. Do you feel like you gave your best? Did you have fun? Things like
Have
just
those conversations. I'm really good at those ones.
That's good.
How many times have you been here? Not how many times do you think these guys have been here? A lot. Okay, we're doing our best. We're giving our best. You guys should be really proud of that. I'm proud of you. Go tell your parents thank you for driving you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I usually start my season with a pre-mortem. That's kind of like the new catchphrase that everyone is calling it. But where I sit down with my team and I say, hey, listen, you have all been picked to be a part of this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have been chosen by me to be a part of this team. And that is something special. You should know that. There were how many girls, out there wanting this spot? You were chosen to have it, right? And then you go into like, what could go wrong, what has gone wrong, in their, experience. And you kind of talk about all of those things. And then you say, well, now we know. And now every single day we're going to get better. Right. And so, I give them goals every practice. Like, we do the same drill, for the first few weeks of practice, and we, keep track and whatever. And then it usually ends up, because I make it a pretty simple drill, to be fair, but they don't know that, right? So I make it a pretty simple drill, and they get better every single day that we have practice. And then you show them how much they got better, and then their confidence just tends to explode. You know what I mean? Like, then they're doing things they never thought they were able to do. And they're, and it's not just one drill. We do a few different drills, where we, keep track of our points or our percentages, like stats and whatnot. And we it really just, and every team I've had in the past 5 years that I've done that with has just exploded in talent as we got to like our scrimmage and tournament season. And, you know, you just build that confidence from the beginning and you just keep it going. And like you said, you reiterate the team culture, you reiterate that you want to be competitive, you reiterate that they all have the capabilities of doing it. You know what I mean? Like you just reiterate all of those things and then it just builds a very successful team.
That's right. That's right. I do something similar with drills. I have like these baseline drills. I'll do it the very first practice, and then we'll do them later in the season, sometimes a little bit toward the end. I'm like, look how much better. Remember the first time y'all did this, y'all struggled to get 10 in a row, and now y'all just got like 40, 50 in a row without even breaking a sweat. Like, that's awesome. Like,
Yep.
so, and it's just a simple little drill. It's not an overly complicated drill, but you know, it's a struggle at first. They're still learning each other. They're trying to figure things out, you know, whatever it is. They've never seen that drill before. Also, I make sure it's a drill that they've never seen before too. So they're actually having to figure it out. And then we have those conversations around, oh, what do you think will make this drill easier? Oh, yeah, let's try that. Because it will.
Yep.
It will make that drill easier. Then also the secret ingredient, getting player buy-in. This is probably the most important part because you can define your culture, you can communicate the culture, but if you don't have player buy-in, man, it's much harder. And I like to use their words. I think, Lauren, you kind of talked about this. What do they have to say about it? When it comes to my vision, you know, my vision is, hey, I think we could get to the gold bracket at regionals. Is this something you want to accomplish? What is something you want to accomplish? And I'll let them talk. Okay, great. That's awesome. And a lot of times it aligns with what I'm talking about anyway. But my core values, you know, whether it's commitment, hard work, respect. What do these values look like to you? What does it mean to be committed? What does it mean to be respectful? What does it look like for the team to be committed? Ask them. And I do actually do all this on a Google form. Like after the first practice, I'll send this little Google form with these little open-ended questions and have them respond. And then at the very next practice, I read them back to them. Like, hey, these are your words. This is what you said. This isn't what I said. I haven't told you what I thought yet. This is what you're saying. And then I have to read them and I'm like, do you agree with this? Do you agree with what this person said? And they're like, yeah, like 99.9% of the time they're like, yes, I agree. I'm like, great. And this is how we're holding you accountable. This is how you're holding each other accountable. This is how I'm holding you accountable by your words. So at any point in the season, I can go to them and be like, hey, remember when you said this? And I go, oh, yeah. Okay, got it. And then, of course, my mission statement. This is, like I said, this is kind of where it started for me. What does it look like to work hard? What does it look like to work hard at all times? What does it look like to work hard for yourself? What does it look like to work hard for your teammates? And they tell me. They put it in the Google form, and we talk about it. And I love it because it works. Player buy-in is a lot simpler than a lot of coaches realize, but it's so powerful. Like, it's their words. It's their word. You're not telling them what to think. You're not telling them what to do. You're not telling them what to say. It's 100% them. And it's their words because they're smarter than a lot of coaches give credit for, even at the younger ages. I've heard some pretty profound things from a 12-year-old. But, you know, player buy-in. And I actually want to share some from my team, beginning of the season versus end of the season. So this is my team at one of our theme practices, being silly that they are. So what does it look like for you to work hard? To me, working hard means communicating, hustling, encouraging the team, playing to the best of my ability the whole game. That's their words. I can be like, hey, do you agree with this? And like, yes, we agree with this. Taking risk, being aggressive, listen to the advice given to me. So being coachable. Do you agree that being coachable is important? Yes, I do. Awesome. Great. What does it look like for you to work hard at all times? Never walking on the court. Hallelujah. Thank you. I don't know who wrote that, but yes, stop walking on the court. To always hustle no matter who's watching. It's interesting that I actually had a couple people who wrote no matter who's watching. I'm like, y'all aren't being recruited. Y'all are a regional team. No one's looking at y'all right now, so I don't know what you're thinking. Maybe your parents, your boyfriend. I don't know. What does it look like for you to work hard for your teammates, encouraging them and lifting them up? That's great. Doing your part and always doing your best and trusting your teammates that they can work for you, work with you. And then at the end of the season, I like to do kind of a retrospective thing like, hey, what would you tell yourself if you could go back to the beginning of the season? And what would you tell my team next year? If I could bring you into a practice, my first practice next year, what would you tell my players? And so always interesting too, because this is the end of the season. I would tell myself that nobody's judging me and that one mistake doesn't make me. I love this. What I love about this end of season thing is I'm discovering, I kind of mentioned this earlier, they're using a lot of my words, which is super weird and super scary. A lot of things that they're saying, like, I'm not even showing a lot of the ones, like, but there's some that's like, they were listening to that? I thought they were just not even paying attention when I said that. And it's like, wow, they really absorb a lot. But we talk a lot about one mistake doesn't make me, like, you've done this skill correctly 1,000 times, 1,000+ times. You made one mistake. That's not who you are. The odds are in your favor that the next time you do it, it's going to be right. It's going to be good because you've done it thousands of times correctly. Don't focus on that one mistake. So we talk a lot about that. Not being hard on myself for little mistakes. Once again, not being hard on yourself about mistakes, not putting so much pressure on myself. A lot of conversations around mental toughness, which is very important. Mental toughness is not a one-time conversation. It's an all-the-time conversation. And it's kind of tough at any age, I think. It's a big hurdle for a lot of players. And everyone's different. Every player is different. I think I've only had one player who was like rock solid no matter what. She didn't care about your praise or criticism. She's like, stop talking to me. I'm good. No, I'm good. Just stop talking to me. I'm like, okay, fine. And she went and did her thing. Great. She knew what she did wrong. Cool. She was good. I remember one match. It was at regionals. I think it was like we're playing for like silver bracket championship, some of that. We were down 19-24. It was her turn to serve. She served it out. She just served, 6 in a row. No pressure on her. I was like, I wish everyone could have that kind of just chill, relax. Oh, yeah, it's their match point, but I'm just going to go and do my thing. I'm like, that's awesome. What advice would you give Coach Stewart's team next year? Get out of your head. Yes, absolutely. More mental toughness talk. Always give effort, support your teammates, and be intentional. See, we talked about the intentional with everything you do. And the last one was just kind of funny. Just because that's her personality, I thought I'd throw it in there for fun. Get your life together. I say that a lot as a joke. I don't know if you can see it. There's a picture behind me. This one right there. The player in the red, she made me and my assistant coach's shirts that say, get your life together. She gave it to us at regionals this year. It's just something fun. I said, I never say that being serious. It's always like something silly. I'm like, hey, get your life together. For whatever reason, I think it's funny. So cool. And then tie your shoe for a free timeout. Now, I've never actually taught them to do that. just for the record, I guess it comes up casually in conversation. I don't know. But, like, that's hilarious that this person, especially who wrote this, that's what she wrote. I'm like, I mentioned that once. Like, I barely remember it. I don't even know if she ever used it, but like, if you're going to use it, cool. I'm not going to tell you to use it, but if you need to tie your shoe, go for it. Tie your shoe. And then expect the unexpected. I guess she's quoting Big Brother or something. I don't know. Expect the unexpected. I don't know what that's about, and work hard. So it's just really interesting to see the beginning of the season and end of the season, how they're saying things. But all of this started with player buy-in. All of these things are their words. You know, well, I guess at the end, it sounds like my words, which is, like I said, is a little weird. But at the beginning of the season, it's all their words. I'm not telling them what to say. And it just has a huge, huge impact. I know, Lauren, you talked about that as well. And I'd love to actually hear a little bit more about how you kind of foster that conversation.
For the player buy-in?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did it. We do like a mentoring, like a coaching mentoring program where we take our high school club players and they get to coach our middle school kids for what we call Summer Smash, which is our summer camp. And the first time, like not the first time I saw it work, but the biggest thing I saw in the difference that we did it this year than we did last year. So last year, I made the expectations. I just made the expectations. I put them on a sheet. We went over them. We talked about them a little bit, and it was just kind of like, okay, this is what it is. This year, I let them create all of the expectations for themselves as coaches, what they wanted out of the campers, like because we had camper expectations as well. So what they wanted out of the campers as they were coaching them. We did a whole big exercise of like, they got to create some drills, you know what I mean? Like they had like so much skin in that game of, you know, how they were going to coach these campers this season. And we had some awesome feedback from parents and from campers. And it just was a really successful Summer Smash. So that just having them be a part of the process to getting, you know, to whatever they're doing is a huge part in having them buy in. And then for my teams, every team, I have a set of core values and my own personal mission statement. And what I do is I actually have them make their own personal mission statement as an athlete. And then I have that, and then we as a team create our mission statement from everybody's mission statement, because we think that as a team, and we know every team is going to be different. We don't keep the same players and do any of the same rosters every year. We actually just create new teams every year for the most part. So every single one of my teams do their own mission statements, and then we read our mission statements and we create our mission statement from everybody's mission statement, because it's about we. We turn the me into we. And so that tends to be a huge, like, then that everyone has skin in that game, right? They have their own, they've created what we have essentially, you know, seen as what's going forward. And then everyone, like you do, which is awesome, we have our own buy-in for, you know, what do the core values mean to me? Mm-hmm. And then we add core values, because I'm like, hey, let's add, I always make my team add at least 2 more core values to my 5. So we have 7. I know that's a lot, but I mean, it works out. So like everyone has skin in the game, and we all do it together. And I feel like making sure that they're all part of that process, like you said, in the beginning, and then in the middle, like we reiterate it, you know, during practices, like after a tough tournament where we didn't, you know, play as well as we wanted to, or whatever might have happened. We always come back to like, what are our core values? How can we fix it from here? And then we move forward.
Yeah. I love that. That's good.